So let's get to our Think Fast for this week. It is Thursday, May 8th, as we record. Pope Leo XIV just got elected. The white smoke went up, Habemas Papam, or whatever the Latin. They've got a pope. Very short election, only took a couple days this time, I believe, replacing the deceased Pope Francis. We are not Catholics in the least. On the other hand, it's significant news for the religious world. And so should it matter to us? Do we want, apparently he's a little bit more progressive pope, not super off the deep end, not gay marriage progressive, but there's some indications that maybe he might go similarly to Pope Francis. Who knows? I guess that remains to be seen. I guess that'll be the question I put out. Is it better for non-Catholics to have a conservative Catholic pope or a lax progressive Catholic pope?
Oh, very strongly a conservative Catholic pope. This guy leads a billion people. I think no, they're not Christians, and no, we certainly aren't fellowshipping Catholics, and we're not Catholic. On the other hand, yeah, we can absolutely see that when you have strong leadership, even in a religion like that is against gay marriage, that is against, which I think he is, as talked about. What I read is he's conservative on church doctrine, so no women in priest roles and things like that, and no gay marriage. But he's more socially liberal with the immigrants and things like that as he leans toward Pope Francis in that way. I do think that conservative is better, because it's going to, there's a lot of followers out there. There's a lot of people that are just looking for, what do our leaders say? And if you can get a lot of them to disavow abortion, to disavow homosexuality, to disavow women just getting to run the church type of thing. Yeah, those are good things. Even though we're not Catholic, that is a good ideology to bring into the world. And once again, there's 1 billion plus Catholics in the world. Yeah, that's important to have a guy who's going to lead them in the right direction, because that might lead them back toward Christ in some way. On the other hand, I will say that I will let you get your say in here, but you could also make the case that a more liberal pope causes people to fall away from Catholicism, going, this whole thing's a joke. So maybe that would be for the better. I suppose you can make that case that if he's more on the liberal end, there's a lot of people that are going to go, no, I reject this whole system, which would be good. Obviously, we want them to reject the papacy and Catholicism. So, well, I'm curious. I'm laying out both sides. I could see either one of those being true.
Yeah, the negative side of it being essentially if they're off the deep end enough that it's going to drive people away from Catholicism. My fear is, though, that would not necessarily drive them to the truth of the Bible. It would just drive them away from any kind of, not that Catholicism is Christianity, but you know what I mean? Acknowledgement of God or the Bible at all. And so, yeah, I don't have a ton to add. I think overall I would agree that, I'm not Catholic and it doesn't really affect me. But if I was getting to choose between one of two options, and one was, progressive liberally or a little bit more on the conservative end, I'm going to go with the conservative route. I just find it pretty fascinating that this one guy has so much religious power for this huge group of people, as you spoke to, Joe, 1 billion people. And, this is not an episode where we're going to dive into Catholicism, but where they get the evidence for that, to me, is just where does that come from? I know they think Peter was the first pope and all those things, but that was my initial reaction, is do people actually think this is the right way to go about it? That this is biblically mandated? And I know, the stereotypes about Catholics is that they're the easiest converts because they've never opened their Bible before. But I don't know. That's just what stuck with me, or what struck me, I should say, is the kind of absurdity of the whole system. But yeah, to answer the question, I'm conservative, I suppose. Jack?
It's hard to say go against conservative, because of Pope John Paul II really played a big part in bringing down the communist, the Iron Curtain or whatever in Eastern Europe, really taking a stand and lifted a lot of people out of horrible situations. As much as I am anti-Catholic, you cannot take the credit away for that. And so that's a good thing. And again, the Catholics do more to stop abortion than anybody else. And so there's positivity in that. There are some things on which, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That doesn't mean we endorse. That doesn't mean we're allies with them so much as co-belligerents. And so I think there is positivity. As to the delegitimizing, I mean, if Pope Francis didn't send them running for other options, I don't know that another one will. And so I guess from a practical standpoint, I'm going to go with the conservative one. Again, this is not an endorsement of Catholicism. That's going to be how somebody spins it, I'm sure. But it's the question of, would you rather have someone really holding a line and pushing people in the right direction on these things, or just making a social difference? Yeah, I think that's better than not, even though there's so many underlying issues to keep you from, I can say, hey, good job, Pope John Paul II, doing that. Oh, by the way, also, you really did a lot of bad in a lot of other ways. So, yeah, we can still say that and give credit where credit's due.
So here's the other question that's overarching even from this. Should it matter to Christians at all? Not just a conservative, like should the
you care
choosing
who
of
the
the
Pope
Pope,
is? Yeah.
should you care at all? Well, and I looked up 1.4 billion, so that's a lot. I mean, you're talking almost 1.5 billion people around the world are Catholics. Should we as Christians care? Then we'll sign off here. But I'm curious your guys' thoughts on it. Like, if let's say somebody's listening to this going, wow, they chose a new pope. Like, are they any worse off than us who were very aware, like the moment that it happened? Should it matter to us? Does it matter to us? I'm going to say yes.
It does. I mean, it trickles down.
Correct. I'm going to say yes. This is one of the most powerful men in the world. I think it is important to know who's leading one of the biggest, or if not the biggest, religion in the world. Maybe is Islam bigger? I'm not really sure on that, but one of the biggest religions in the world. I do think, yeah, any time where you have that level of power, and the fact that I think it's interesting, this is the first American pope. That's going to be very, very interesting to see what shifts are made based off of that, and you know and I understand he was in Peru, I think, for like 20 years or something, so maybe technically American, but anyway, I still think it matters. I think there's an element to this that is, yeah, we need to be aware of these type of things, especially since there are so many Catholics. They may not even know fully who the Pope is, but I think it's good for Christians to be up on some of these things and to see which way it's going to go. And as you said, Jack, this does have political ties too. This is not just strictly a religious thing. So what are your guys' thoughts?
My thought would be similar for the political tie reason. I would say. I mean, at the end of the day, like, should it affect a ton as far as like Christians' perspective, Christians' mindset? Probably not. I don't think. At the end of the day, who the head of Buddhism is, like, doesn't really matter to us. Obviously, there's a lot of difference there though, because Catholicism has so much more sway over American culture and people's morality in American culture than Buddhism does, for instance. So that would be. I would agree with y'all's take there.